What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome back to another episode of the NBA Talk Podcast for the week of March the 27th, 2017, all the way to March the 1st, 2017. I'm your host, Hani, and on this episode of the podcast, we're going to be talking about the Indiana Pacers and how they're going to be bringing back Lance Stephenson on a 3-year deal. So we're gonna get into my thoughts on that, what I think about that, why am I intrigued by this, first of all, and where this can go and where this can lead in the future. We'll also be discussing about Lonzo Ball and how he has officially declared for the NBA draft. So I can give you guys my analysis on why he declared for the draft and where his projection is and what I think his future will be in the NBA. We're also going to be talking about how Jay Crowder, pokes fun or disses Suns Devin Booker for scoring 70 points. So I'm going to get into my opinions on that, what I think, and, all some shit like that. We're also going to be talking about how Blake Griffin is going to be considering either the Boston Celtics or the Los Angeles Lakers in free agency. So my thoughts on that as well. We're also going to be talking about how the Minnesota Timberwolves will be unveiling a new logo during the final game of the regular season. And we're also going to be talking about how ex-NBA star Brandon Roy has been named the National High School Coach of the Year. So I'm going to give my thoughts on that and why I feel that it's just a great story in general. So without any further ado, let's get started. So Pacers officially signed Lance Stephenson to a reported 3-year deal. The Indiana Pacers have officially signed swingman Lance Stephenson on Thursday to what's been reported as a 3-year, $12 million contract. It marks Stephenson's second go-around with the Pacers after spending the first 4 years of his career in Indiana. We're very happy to have Lance back as a part of our team, Pacers president Larry Bird said in a team statement. We always knew he wanted to come back here, and we feel now is the right time, not only for the rest of the season, but moving forward. We look forward to having a long relationship with him because we know what he can bring to our franchise both on and off the court. The former second-round selection split time between the New Orleans Pelicans and Minnesota Timberwolves this season, averaging 6.6 points and 2.8 assists, and 2.8 rebounds in 12 combined contests. The 26-year-old should help strengthen the Pacers' wing depth while providing scoring to an offense that ranks 15th in efficiency. So, as we know, Lance Stephenson has not had the best few years in the NBA. After his best seasons in Indiana back in 2014, Lance decided to leave Indiana for more money, and he went to Charlotte. And that didn't go well. And then he bounced around the league, went to the Clippers, went to the Grizzlies, went to New Orleans and Minnesota, and now he's a free agent. Now, coincidentally, the Pacers haven't been doing too well either, since 2014, since Lance left. They've been just on a steady decline where they've just been regressing, to a point where that same Pacers team that made it to the conference final that same year Lance left is no longer there when he's returning. Like, that's how insane it is, how much things have changed in Indiana, So now they want to try to sort of rekindle that success that they had in 2014 and see that maybe by bringing Lance Stephenson back, it could help that. So they're trying to bring back Lance Stephenson to a 3-year deal worth $12 million. Now, in my opinion, I think Lance Stephenson has been really underrated and undervalued, as a player. And as many shortcomings that this guy might have, he may make mistakes. He may not be the best guy in the locker room. He may not be, the best player ever. But this guy still is talented. What we've seen from him in Indiana, that was true talent. And he still can play like that. I mean, if you watch him now, this guy can... he kind of reminds me of J.R. Smith, where he's a player that when he wants to play well, he will play well. And when you put him into the right situation to play well, he will thrive. And I think that's what we saw in Indiana in those years, where he was in the right situation. He was with the right coach. He was with the right teammates. He was with the right... everything was correct for Lance Stephenson. And that's what he thrived in. And now, since he parted away from that, he hasn't had that same sort of thing. And I think he's still he still can rekindle that. I think he's still a solid scorer, and I think he's still solid defensively as well. And if you ask me, I really think Lance's problem, him just the way he is, I think what has been missing in his career since leaving Indiana was a veteran or somebody who can get into his face. Somebody who can really sort of tell Lance what he's doing wrong. Tell Lance his mistakes. Get into Lance when he's not playing well. Get into Lance when he's making a mistake or not doing things he's supposed to be doing. Because Lance is the kind of guy, he's going to be Lance. He's going to do what he wants. But there hasn't been somebody who's been with him to sort of tell him off, saying, nah, man, this is not what you're supposed to be doing. Focus. Be the player who you were sought out to be. And, he hasn't had that. Because think about it, in Indiana, he had guys like David West, a veteran presence who was a scary dude. Like, you don't want to mess with David West. You got Roy Hibbert, another scary dude. You got Paul George. Paul George is pretty intimidating. And, they were intimidating guys in that locker room in Indiana that were able to tell Lance, look, you got to straighten up your act. You got to be professional when you're on an NBA court. You're very talented. We understand that. But in order to maximize that talent, we need you to focus. And that's where Lance really thrived, when someone was able to get into his face. And I think because he hasn't had that, for all these years, I just think that's been his biggest problem. Now, this leads me to the Pacers. Now, for me, I've been watching the Pacers, and the Pacers haven't looked that amazing this year, even though I had high hopes for them. Like, if you go back to my season preview, like, sort of series of videos, I was talking about how I was praising the Pacers about their offseason, how I liked the moves that they brought. I like how they brought Jeff Teague. I liked how they brought in Thaddeus Young. But things haven't worked out that well for the Pacers. And it's been disappointing. As I projected them to be the fourth seed in the Eastern Conference, when now they're barely hanging on to the 8th seed, which is very disappointing. And I think the problem really just comes because the Pacers don't have a number 2 or 3 scoring option besides Paul George. Besides Paul George, there's really nobody who can create on offense. Their offense, as we read in the article, is ranked 15th in offensive efficiency. Why? Because you literally have one guy carrying the whole offensive load. We all expected Jeff Teague to take a bigger role on offense, but he's not that kind of a player. He was never that kind of a player. In Atlanta, he was always the third guy behind Al Horford and Paul Millsap. He wasn't the primary guy. So Jeff Teague, though he's a solid point guard in my opinion, I think, he could be still useful to the Pacers. I think he's not a number 2 option. And that's been creating problems with the Pacers as the team is not playing well. And when they're not playing well offensively, this is leading to the terrible play on defense, where, this team needs some help. They clearly need some help as they're carrying their offensive woes to the defensive end, and that's leading to bad defense, and that's leading to them losing games. Like, that's the problem with the Pacers right now. So basically, I actually like the signing of Lance Stephenson. Surprisingly, it is. Like, I've been a guy who's been probably known for criticizing Lance Stephenson a lot, just because I know how talented he is. I know that, like, when I'm watching him play against, like, play on TV, like, I see this guy and I'm like, damn, this guy has potential to be great. He's so good at scoring. He's solid defensively. Like, this guy can be a solid rotational player on a championship contending team. But, we haven't seen that from him. And I really like him going to the Pacers. Why? Because I think he could help really spark the Pacers. I think he can bring the Pacers a jolt of energy, a guy who's desperately, trying to help this team. I think Lance, after being bounced around the league now, is now realized that, look, I gotta straighten up. I think Lance has realized that he needs to be a professional. He needs to stop wasting these opportunities because there's not many of them left. This is probably the only option he had. Because after he got waived by Minnesota, I personally thought it was done for him. I thought he wasn't going to be back in the NBA. But the Pacers willingly gave him a contract and gave him an opportunity to be great. So I think he'll be a spark plug. I think he'll bring the force. I think he'll bring the tenacity that we've seen from him in 2014. And this will really help the Pacers, who are desperately trying to hold on to a playoff spot. Lance, he can come into a familiar atmosphere. He has a guy in Paul George who can solve his issue. Paul George can sort of get into his face a little bit, straighten him up a little bit. And plus the opportunity of that, just living up to that contract. Because remember, I didn't mention this earlier, but 2 of his 3 years in that contract are guaranteed, whereas the 3rd year is a team option. So Lance literally has this year and next season to prove that he deserves that contract and proves that he still deserves to be in the NBA. So I think he'll be motivated to play hard and motivated to help the team win, And along with that, he gives the Pacers another scoring option, as now he is the de facto number 2 option, So he's now a number 2 option. Now you got another scoring option, and you also, you can bring Lance off the bench as well as another scoring option, and he can also bring some defense as well, given his size and athleticism, And he brings a lot to this Pacers team, and I really like the signing. Now, the only thing I just really don't like about this signing is the contract length. I think the Pacers were very desperate in this situation, but I think they sort of made the wrong choice by giving Lance 3 years. Because let's be honest here, as much as I want this to go well for Lance, as much as, a lot of people want this Lance to be successful again, there's no guarantee. There's legit no guarantee. Lance, for all we know, could still be the same Lance that we've been seeing for the past 3 years. And for me, in my opinion, I just don't think that's a big risk for the Pacers to take on for the next 3 years. I think it would have been smarter to give him maybe a sort of a 1+1, give him a contract for next season, for the full next season, and then sort of make that a team option if you want to bring him back, sort of giving him sort of a test year, saying that, okay, we're giving you this timeline to prove that you want to be on this team. If you prove it to us, we'll bring you back. If not, then sorry, man, we're going to let you go. So I think that was only that's my only concern, because it'll be harder to get rid of him if he doesn't go well now that he's on a longer contract. But we'll see what happens with Lance. But overall, man, I like the signing. I think it's great for both parties. I think Lance is getting that fresh opportunity that he's been looking for in his career. I think the Pacers are getting a solid player who can probably help fill their voids. And, I just really hope this all can work out. I really hope that the Pacers can start, having some success, because Paul George's free agency is coming soon. And as someone who's a Paul George fan, it's a very scary time to see this guy leave Indiana and go to the Lakers and, be a superstar there. So I really hope this all works out. But again, we'll see what happens. I'll be keeping my eyes open, and I'm sure you all will be too. Lonzo Ball declares for NBA draft immediately after UCLA loss. Well, he certainly didn't waste any time. Immediately after UCLA was eliminated from the NCAA tournament Friday night, superstar freshman Lonzo Ball announced his intention to enter the NBA draft. That was my final game for UCLA, and I appreciate all the fans and all the support, he said after the game. Ball, a contender to be the first overall pick in June's draft, enjoyed a remarkable campaign that saw him finish with the second most assists in a season in Pac-12 history, while running the point for UCLA. He came into the Sweet 16 action averaging 14.7 points and 7.6 assists per game, and he posted 10 points and 8 assists versus the Wildcats. Ball is the first of several Bruins who will figure to get NBA attention as the draft approaches. Though he only spent one season at UCLA, he'll go down as one of the program's all-time greats. His younger brothers LeAngelo and LaMelo are still in high school but are committed to play for UCLA and will look to build on their oldest brother's legacy at Pauley Pavilion. So, as we know, UCLA was eliminated from the March Madness tournament by Kentucky. However, immediately following that loss, Lonzo Ball confirmed that he's officially entering the NBA draft. That he is going to be there in June and he's going to go to the NBA. And this is big news, man. This is legit big news, as now we have the potential top 3 picks in this year's draft confirmed for the draft, in which I'm talking about Markelle Fultz, Josh Jackson, and now Lonzo Ball. Now, the big thing with Lonzo, in my opinion, is that he planned this all along. Like, this, his whole journey, cause I've been really intrigued by Lonzo Ball. I'm not gonna lie about that. Hearing LeVar Ball and his comments, I really was intrigued with what this guy is, who this guy is, what makes people say he's so great. And that's what I wanted to figure out about Lonzo Ball. So I looked into him. I looked into his story. I looked into where he's come up from. And the fact that it was all planned out, that he's going to be one and done. And his dad said it, and he confirmed it, that this is my plan. I want to be one and done. This is my final game for UCLA. That's it. I'm going to the NBA. So, I love that, how he planned everything out, and now he's achieving that goal of his. And, so that's the big thing with Lonzo Ball, that how he plans his career out. He's planning what he wants to do, when he wants to do it, and, he's going to do it. And I applaud him for that. Now, so now that he has declared for the draft, there's basically 2 questions that hit my mind when I think of Lonzo Ball. Number 1, where will he get drafted to? What team will be the next home for Lonzo Ball? And number 2, how good will he be? Sure, he's a good player in college, but we've all seen players who are great in college and just become bust in the NBA. Look at a guy like Jimmy Fredette. I mean, I know he's killing it in China, but the NBA is where it's at. If you ain't in the NBA, you don't matter. So, yeah. Now, as far as where he'll get drafted, personally, and this is a known fact, he's going to be a minimum top 3 pick, a maximum top 5. He's not going to go any lower than the 5th overall pick. And if he does, that will look very stupid to any of those teams in the top 5. Because, bro, you're passing on a generational talent who has the potential to be something great. So that's where I know he's going to go. Now, currently, Boston has the number 1 odds of landing the number 1 pick. And quite honestly, if Boston gets the number 1 pick, I don't think they're taking Lonzo Ball number 1. I just don't see it happening. I don't see Lonzo going to the Celtics because they don't need a point guard. They don't need Lonzo Ball there. They don't need him. And if they don't need him, they're not going to draft him. In which I think Boston's going to go for either... Well, I don't even think Boston needs the pick, quite honestly. I think you've heard me say it. I think Boston should have traded that pick because they don't need the pick. They don't need to pick another young guy. But we'll see what happens in Boston. But I don't think Boston will pick Lonzo. Then the next potential pick would be the Lakers. Now, the Lakers, I think, would pick up Lonzo Ball. I think if Lonzo Ball doesn't go number 1 to the Celtics, I think he's going number 2 to the Lakers. For sure. I think that's where he's going to end up because, first of all, he's box office. This guy, he plays basketball in a way that reminds everybody of Magic Johnson. And Magic Johnson, of course, being the president of the Lakers, will say, well, that guy plays like me. And who made the Lakers great? Me. So I'm going to bring me into the Lakers and make the Lakers great again because of me. Or him. Who plays like me. You get the point. But, Magic Johnson will look at that and say, well, he's a guy who can change the franchise. He's a leader. He's a guy who is from the Los Angeles area. He's from that area. So he's a hometown kid. He can draw crowds. He's going to have hype behind him. So, the Lakers could use him as, he's going to be that guy if he fits in LA. And, quite honestly, I think that is probably going to be the most likely scenario. I think Lonzo Ball will end up on to the Lakers. Now, yeah, I just think he's going to end up onto the Lakers. If the Lakers are the number 2 pick, even if the Lakers are the number 1 pick, they're picking Lonzo Ball. But if they get the number 2 pick, which is most likely going to end up happening, then Lonzo Ball is going number 2. I don't think Lonzo Ball would go number 1 currently if the Celtics have the number 1 pick, because they don't need him. They just don't. And neither does number 3, which would be Phoenix. Phoenix doesn't need another point guard because they already have Bledsoe, Knight, and Ulis, and a bunch of other guys. They don't need any more point guards. So it's really the Lakers or the 4th or 5th pick, who I just can't remember and I really just don't care about. Now, there's 2 sides to where I think about when I think about Lonzo getting drafted. Now, yes, I think the most likely scenario is he'll end up to the Lakers. I don't think the Lakers necessarily need him. I think they want him just because of who he is and what he can be. Now, personally, as far as a team that might need Lonzo Ball, I think the Knicks would need Lonzo Ball. If the Knicks can possibly get Lonzo Ball, I think that'll be the best thing Phil Jackson, if he's still there, will ever do for the Knicks. Because the Knicks need a guy to lead their team. The Knicks need a guy to pair with Kristaps Porzingis. And I think Lonzo can be that guy. I think Lonzo can be that new face of New York that everybody's been looking for. But, that's just me. I think Lonzo's a guy who can turn a franchise around. Which segues me to my next point, which is about how good I think Lonzo Ball will be. Sure, if he gets drafted to the Lakers, how good will he be? Will he live up to the hype that his dad has been putting out there for him? Now, I've been on the record saying that I really just don't like LeVar going out there and, start writing checks that his son has to cash. Because it's sort of not fair, because you need to let his game speak for itself, So, that's just me. But now, as far as how well he will do, to me, in my opinion, I think when Lonzo gets in the NBA, I think he's going to struggle a little bit starting out. I really do. Because Lonzo, I categorize Lonzo Ball as a unique player. He is unique in the sense that his game is different than any other players. Kind of like Stephen Curry, where, they come into the league and players of that uniqueness have a little trouble adapting their game to the NBA, because now they need to change, mold their game to the NBA level. And that's something that guys like Curry has struggled with. And I think Lonzo will follow that same path. Now, what happens after that is I think once Lonzo figures it out, I think sky's the limit. I think this guy has the potential to be something great. I think he has superstar written all over him. I think, he has the potential to be great. And I think it will happen. I think Lonzo will be probably the next Magic Johnson, but except with a jump shot. LeVar Ball said it best on the first take. He's Magic with a jump shot, and I can see it completely. He has the ball movement. He has the vision. He has the team first mindset, and he plays great defense. And he's also a great shooter, which is something that Magic Johnson isn't. So I think he has superstar written all over him. I think he's a superstar potential caliber player. I think he might start off a little bit slowly, but once he hits it, he's gonna jolt up and he's gonna legit be the next superstar in the NBA. I think he has that potential, but that's if it happens. We don't know it for sure. Overall, I think this is great news. I think this really is just great news that Lonzo has declared for the NBA draft. It gets me even more hyped to see where he'll end up in June. And I'm excited for the draft. I can't lie. I'm always excited for the NBA draft because I love seeing the future of the NBA, getting drafted. I love seeing that. I love seeing the future and where the talent would rank. What's the NBA gonna be like when guys like LeBron, Melo, and Wade, these guys all retire? It's interesting, man. It's something that we could talk about. But, we'll see what happens, man. But I'm just hyped up for the draft because of Lonzo Ball. So, now we're going to move on to Jay Crowder disses Suns for celebrating 70-point effort. And Booker fires back. Devin Booker bringing the heat on and off the court. After torching the Boston Celtics for 70 points, the Phoenix Suns guard received plenty of love on social media. However, he was also fielded some criticism. Celtics small forward Jay Crowder commented on the Suns' group picture, saying he's never seen so many guys happy after a loss. So sure, Phoenix fell 130 to 120 in Beantown, despite Booker's historic scoring effort, but it was still one heck of a performance and no doubt highlights of the Suns season. Booker responded telling Crowder, "You can't guard me," If the stat sheet is any indication, he's right, and Crowder knows it too. He replied, "I was talking about them dudes around you, but I'll see you next year." This is very weird to me. Now, we're going to start off in the beginning of this. So if you've been living under a rock, which I hope you haven't been, but if you have, then you wouldn't know that Devin Booker scored 70 freaking points. 70 freaking points. We haven't seen a stat like that since Kobe dropped 81 on the Raptors. We haven't seen something that phenomenal, and he's dropped that in a loss to the Boston Celtics. Now, the bad part of that effort was, of course, it came in the losing effort, but god damn, that was impressive by Devin Booker. He was phenomenal. He really showed, Kobe-esque talent as being a scorer, and he was great. He was absolutely fantastic in that game. For a kid to score 70 points in his second season in the NBA, it makes me wonder how did this guy slip through everybody's fingers? This guy went so late, mid first round in the draft. It was it was a shock. John Calipari was pissed, and now you see why he was pissed, because John Calipari knew that this guy is greatness waiting to be unleashed, and people passed on him, and now he's proving everybody wrong, because he could have gone to many teams and made a big impact, but Phoenix got him, and they got him. They were lucky to get him, because now he's a guy who can be the cornerstone of their franchise moving forward. And I think Devin Booker really made me into a fan of his after this performance, because this kid has been fantastic all year, and he has a very bright future, man. This guy has a very bright future. Now, turning it back to the story, so after the game, the Suns were celebrating Booker's legendary achievement, but then on social media, Jay Crowder has to come out and say, start saying shit oh, why are they celebrating a loss? Now, I think that's stupid of Jay Crowder. Bro, first of all, you won the game, so shut the hell up. You won. Why are you trying to throw salt into the wound? And second of all, if a man scores 70 points, you don't think his teammates are going to be happy for him? You don't think his teammates are going to say, wow, bro, you deserve the honor, you deserve the praises, because that was an amazing game you played. You individually played an amazing game. And the fact that Jay Crowder, knowing that, has to see something stupid on social media to start some shit is come on. You gotta use your brain sometimes, because you can understand that if it was your teammate who scored 70 points, you wouldn't say anything about that, because you know that, okay, we may have lost the game, but it doesn't really matter, because our teammate did an amazing thing. We should celebrate our teammate. Motivate each other to get better. And I think Jay Crowder is just starting shit that he doesn't want. It's a monumental thing. And frankly, I think Jay Crowder, it was just salty because he let it happen. You let a man score 70 points. Instead of, complaining, instead of, dissing the Suns for celebrating, you should be looking at yourself saying, oh, what's wrong with my defense, bro? I let a man score 70 points on me. 70. 7-0. Teams can't even score that in one game. Teams. And one man did it against you. So, so what if they didn't win? You just got to be happy for Booker. And, that's just a crazy stat to achieve in your second year in the NBA. I thought this was so unnecessary and stupid by Jay. Why are you starting shit for no reason? That's all I see it as. But overall, man, I just think that was awesome by Devin Booker, just dropping 70 points. It was an amazing achievement, but I just think that was stupid by Jay Crowder to say stuff about it, because now it's starting a whole beef. People were getting involved. Now the media got attention to it, and it was just something that really just was put sour salt upon Devin Booker's great achievement. Blake Griffin will consider the Lakers and the Celtics in free agency. The fate of the current core of the Los Angeles Clippers could ride on how the team fares this upcoming postseason, with several of the team's biggest stars eligible to walk in free agency. Blake Griffin is among those named and should be open to a fresh start elsewhere. League insiders believe both the Los Angeles Lakers and the Boston Celtics will be potential destinations for the 28-year-old forward, according to Bleacher Report's Kevin Ding. Griffin hopes to remain in Los Angeles, though whether that means re-signing with the Clippers or joining the resident Lakers, as his interest in the world of entertainment makes staying in the city a top priority, which is completely stupid in my opinion, because as you're a basketball player, focus on winning, not your I don't know, acting careers or whatever the hell you want to do, Blake. Griffin hopes to remain. Yeah, I read that. The Clippers can offer Griffin a full 5-year max contract and more money than any other team as a result of owning his bird rights, allowing them to exceed the cap. He's earning a touch over $20 million this season, with the player option of $21.3 million in 2017-18, which he's certainly going to turn down to cash on a larger deal. Both the Lakers and the Celtics will need to do some financial maneuvering to create the necessary space to come even close to giving the Griffin the max, including re-announcing several free agents of their own. Boston reportedly discussed potentially acquiring Griffin ahead of the February 23rd trade deadline, although it was considered extremely unlikely that the two sides would come to terms on a package at the time. The five-time All-Star missed a stretch of 18 games from December 20th to January 23rd after undergoing minor surgery on his knees. He's averaging 21.3 points, 8.3 rebounds, and 5 assists on 48.2% shooting in 52 appearances this season for the 43-30 Clippers, who sit 5th in the Western Conference and 1.5 games back of the Utah Jazz for the 4th seed. So, as we know, Blake Griffin is set to become a free agent this summer, and he hasn't had the best year or two, as the Clippers have not been able to be successful at all, as they haven't been able to be successful as they should be on paper. Now, with that, Blake is going to be having some options this summer where he would go. If the Clippers don't do well this playoff run, he will seriously consider leaving the Clippers. Now, where would he go? According to this article, he's considering to the Boston Celtics or the Los Angeles Lakers. You know, he wants to stay in a large market, and I personally think Blake is a talented player. I think Blake is a player who, when he wants to be, has shown the potential to be a superstar. But lately, he hasn't shown that. Lately, he hasn't been that Blake Griffin we saw in the first few years of his career, where he was completely dominant, super athletic, great defensively. You know, we haven't seen that Blake in a while. And sure, his numbers may look good, but the team isn't winning, which means something is wrong. Either it's him or it's the team. And I'm looking at him because he's the guy leading the team. He's one of the leaders of that team. So, yeah. Now, speaking of the team, I just think the Clippers are in such a bad spot right now. They're in such a competitive Western Conference that their chances of winning are so low. Unless they can literally find the antidote to beat Golden State, I'd say to break up the Big Three. I really think that all the Big Three is doing is holding up cap space, creating false hope in the fan base, and just hurting your chances of just properly rebuilding this franchise to the point where when the time is right, then you can cash in. Like, that's just me. You know, I think it's just very unlikely that Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, and DeAndre Jordan can win a championship when there's teams like the Spurs, the Spurs, Warriors, and the Rockets in the Western Conference standing in their way. Not to mention the Utah Jazz are already ahead of them. So it's so competitive in the Western Conference that you literally have a very unlikely chance of winning, which is what I feel every NBA player should strive to do, win a championship. Therefore, I think if Blake wants to win now, then out of the two teams, Boston or LA, the Lakers, I think he should go to Boston. Or just go to the Eastern Conference in general. Why? Because, as I've said it before, the Eastern Conference provides teams probably the best way to get to the NBA Finals. All you have to do is beat LeBron James. It's not impossible. But it's only looked impossible because the East has been so weak and there hasn't been anybody to challenge LeBron. This is what I've been saying about Kevin Durant when he was in his free agency. That you could have came to Boston, you could have came to Toronto, you could have, come to the East where your chances of getting to the finals are higher than they are in the West. But that's just me. But I think Blake Griffin has the possibility of being great in the Eastern Conference if he chooses to come here. Now, if he chooses to come to the East, I think he could go to Boston or he can go to Washington. As both these teams literally are one piece away from knocking out the Cavs. Both teams are good. They have 2 All-Stars on each team. One, Bradley Beal is like a perennial All-Star. They're borderline All-Star. So, yeah. You got 2 guys, 2 All-Stars on each team. Pair Blake Griffin in one of those situations, and you got a championship big 3 right there. And I think they can take down LeBron. I really think if Blake Griffin wants to win, his opportunity is going to the East. He needs to go to a conference where you have the potential to take down LeBron and get to the finals. It's that simple. But it's only if he wants to win, which I don't think Blake wants to do. I don't think Blake is motivated to win a championship, which I don't understand. That should be your number one goal as a player, but, we'll see what happens. But overall, man, I feel that if Blake wants to win, the Eastern Conference is where he should go. But we'll see what happens. Timberwolves to unveil new logo during final regular season home game. The Minnesota Timberwolves will soon welcoming a new era in franchise history. As part of the upcoming Fan Appreciation Night, the team will be unveiling the Timberwolves' new logo during their final home game of the regular season. The logo, which will be used next season, will be presented at halftime in an April 11th showdown with the Oklahoma City Thunder. We're incredibly excited to share the new logo with our fans. This is but the first of many changes that the fans will see that reflect our growing relevancy at home and abroad. Timberwolves CEO Ethan Kaysen said in a statement. The Timberwolves will be making an announcement regarding the unveiling of their new uniforms in the near future. I actually like this. I personally really like this because the Timberwolves are in a new era. It's in a new era. It's a fresh, new environment. KG is gone. All these old guys like Corey Brewer and these other guys are gone. It's a new era in Timberwolves basketball. And I think what's the best way to represent new and represent change in an organization? It's to update the logo. And I think the Timberwolves really just need a refresh in their logo. I think it's probably one of the oldest logos still right now in the NBA. And I think a more modern look will represent the new modern talent that they have on that they've accumulated, that modern sort of mindset the team has changed into. So I really like this. I really like what the Timberwolves are looking at this and saying, well, no, it's a new era. It's time for some change. It's time to represent that change. It's time for this team to look like they represent that change. And a rebrand is exactly what they need. So I'm really excited about this, and I really like this for the Timberwolves. And finally, our last story for today, guys. Ex-NBA star Brandon Roy named National High School Coach of the Year. After a star-crossed NBA career that was cut short far too soon, it seems Brandon Roy may have found his calling. The former 3-time All-Star was named the Naismith National High School Coach of the Year this week after leading the Seattle's Nathan Hale High School to a perfect 29-0 record. It's a major accomplishment for the 32-year-old Roy, given it was his first year coaching at the school in his hometown. Roy last played an NBA game for the Minnesota Timberwolves in 2012, a year after he was forced to retire prematurely from the Portland Trail Blazers due to a degenerative knee condition. Now, I decided to include this in because this is just a touching story. For those of you who don't know about Brandon Roy, he was a great player, man. He was an amazing scorer. He was drafted by the Portland Trail Blazers. He was just fantastic. He was a leader on that team. Him and LaMarcus Aldridge was such a great pairing. But what happened to Brandon was that he was getting so many knee injuries, so many surgeries that eventually the cartilage that's between your leg, between the knee and the bone and your bones, like that material that allows you to, bend and flex your knee without any pain, started to shrink, and I don't know the exact medical terms. I'm just trying to explain it in a simpler manner, but that started to decrease until the point where Brandon Roy was literally playing where his knee would connect bone on bone, and that actually hurts a lot. So Brandon Roy had such a unique condition that the NBA told him that he has to retire, and he retired prematurely. He didn't want to. But what did he do? He found a new career for himself. He literally went to one of the worst high schools in his area, and he took on to that role as a coach. And he said, you know what? If I can't make myself an NBA player, I want to help shape the next generation. And this guy has done that. He literally turned a franchise, a team that was so trash, and made them into one of the best teams in the nation. He did it. He did it by recruiting guys. He did it the right way, by coaching these guys, teaching them the proper way to play basketball. And to me, by winning this award, it symbolizes all the hard work he put in. It symbolizes that he never gave up. Even though his NBA career was taken away from him, he didn't let that stop him from making an impact in the basketball world. And that's something that I really respect from Brandon Roy. Ever since I've heard his story, man, it's something that's really just touched me. It really connected with me, because I would respect that. I respect a guy who is going to work hard to get what he wants, despite the troubles in his way, despite the trials in his way. This man worked hard, and I think he deserved this award, and I'm very happy for him, and I'm very happy that he's found something to fall on to do, since he's retired, But overall, man, I really love this, man, and I wish Brandon Roy the best of success in his future, man. And with that, that's it for this episode, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave a like if you enjoyed this episode. Subscribe to this channel for more content like this. We're a basketball channel. We create content such as what if scenarios. We do why things happen. Why we also do a basketball podcast which we're on right now. So if you're into basketball and all things videos about basketball, this is the channel for you. Definitely subscribe. We're growing, and I want to keep this thing going, man. So a subscribe would be really appreciated. Follow me on social media. There's my Twitter, my Facebook. And you guys know what to do for the latest updates on when I'll be posting a video, when give my opinions on things and whatnot. So follow me there for that information. And as always, guys, I'm Hani from NBA Talk, and I'll see you all in the next episode of the NBA Talk Podcast. Thank you so much for watching.